Well, hi, here's episode 10 of A Little Bit of Positive Balance in an Uncertain World with Therapy Ted and me. So we're going to go straight into a balance as we normally do. Today's balance, quantum balance, we're holding the cosbats. They're going to be on the sacral chakra. So this is to do with your emotions and also your creativity. And it's a nice orange colour. You have picked a colour card to go with today, and it's this colour, which is the most lovely, lovely turquoise. And turquoise, this is all about empathy. This is being able to put yourself in other people's shoes and letting go of judgment so that you can be more supportive, you can be encouraging, you can be inspiring to others. So just really drink that in. It's also the colour of communication. We kind of, we're very used to the throat chakra being blue, but turquoise is actually also for the throat chakra. And it's the more kind of the new communication. Oh, get the words out. So that's where we're starting with that. So Therapy Ted has that. So the balance itself, we start off with ancestral original trigger ancestral inheritance. So those pesky ancestors are around and about again. We then go into social, we don't go into social, we go survival mechanisms, which is phobias. And again, we had this one yesterday, hence the topic for today is going to be phobias. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a minute. We're going to delete stress receptors in the sympathetic nervous system. And we also have ancestral healing, and this is repeating issues. So that's the balance set up and ready to go. So Therapy Ted has it here. So there we go, Therapy Ted, that's excellent. Now, I wanted just to say a little bit about, a little bit more based on a couple of comments I've had from clients. One was saying, but you don't yawn like you normally do when you're in session, when you're putting a balance in place. And that's because I've actually already set this balance up. So because it would take too long, we would be sat here for probably the whole of the 10 minutes with me putting that balance in place. So I've already done that, and the yawns have already happened beforehand. So, and the other thing was how does it work for everybody? And the answer is that it's kind of a bit of a universal balance, so that your body will pick the bits and pieces that it needs from the balance. In the same way that in clinic, sometimes we don't have quite the right harmonic, but the body will be able to work with what we've got rather than actually having to create a new harmonic for the particular balance. So hopefully that has, certainly for clients, that might have cleared things up. For those of you who aren't clients, it's probably still sort of mud looking. But just accept that it is working and that your body is getting a balance and it is calming everything down. So I've got one positive for you today, which I thought was lovely, which is the fact that since this started, since sort of COVID-19 became much more in the main frame, the Formula One teams and several of the university hospitals have been working together, and they have actually come up with a breathing apparatus, which they've reverse engineered from something I think that the Chinese did. And that's now under trial in UCL, which is a London hospital, I think. And it's looking very, very promising. So they've taken their expertise and their ability to be able to micro-engineer stuff and get it into a capacity where it can be mass produced. So hopefully they will be being rolled out across the NHS, which will then also mean that you don't necessarily need to be on a ventilator if you've got this breathing apparatus, which leaves ventilators there for the most serious of people, which I think is really, really good news. So today we're going to talk a little bit about phobias. So you have a part of your brain, the limbic system, and part of that's something called the amygdala. And this is kind of your most ancient part of the brain, and it actually deals with emotions. So it's how you react to things. Now, you have sort of like a conscious brain and a sort of subconscious brain. That's very simplified, but there are kind of different bits of the brain. And the amygdala is part of this part of the brain which keeps you alive. So it doesn't really care whether you're happy or whether you're sad. It just wants you alive. And it works incredibly fast. If you had to wait for your conscious brain to work through the processes when you've stepped off in front of a bus, you'd be strawberry jam. Whereas your subconscious brain has assessed the situation and hold you back onto the pavement before you've even really been aware that there was actually a problem. And all of us have had something like this where we've just reacted, and then that's kind of saved us. And you're there kind of going, oh my goodness me. It's also the part of your brain that enables you to do a bit of a better risk assessment. People who have a damaged amygdala tend to make sort of maybe more unwise choices. So it's actually a very important part of the brain. The problem comes when it gets hypersensitive to things. So if you're seeing problems where there aren't problems, and anybody who's ever had a panic attack, anybody who's found themselves finding it really, really hard to stay emotionally controlled will know what it's like when that sort of thing is happening. And what's happening is that the brain is telling the body there's something really, really scary going down, whether there is or whether there isn't. Because again, the subconscious part of the brain, it's like black and white. It doesn't see shades of grey. It's either scary or it's not scary. And so it's I'm going to react or I'm not going to react. Now, I think I've mentioned this before, if you've been brought up where maybe you were a little bit more sheltered, you weren't allowed maybe to make mistakes, which meant that you could work out how to risk assess very, very well, then you may have more issues in keeping, calm. If when you were a very young child, when your conscious brain is not really there in quite the same way as an adult, able to sort of look at things and go, well, no, that's different, or no, that's fine, I don't have to worry about that. When you're very little, you tend to believe whatever's coming at you. So for argument's sake, say you were in the kitchen at home when you were a little child and your mum saw a spider, and she immediately freaked out, jumped on a chair, started screaming for your dad to come. Then you would look at her and go, and you'd look at this thing and you think, well, that's got to be really scary because look what my mum's doing. It's got to be really, really scary. So you would then, the next time you see a spider, the chances are that you're going to react in the same way. Now, if your dad then came in and kind of went, oh, it's only a little spider, picked it up, took it outside, then part of your brain would then go, so primary carer number 1, Mom, is really scared. But primary carer number 2, Dad, he's fine with it. Okay. Now, and sometimes that can come down to, I'm a girl, Mum's a girl, so I'm going to go down her route, or I'm a boy. This is what boys do. So it's obviously a thing that girls are scared of and boys aren't. So you can have that kind of thing going on in your brain. Now that will then mean that as you get older, you will have an automatic reaction to spiders. Okay, it's not even something you think about. It's automatic that you will get that. Now, over time, you can train yourself out of that, because as an adult, you can kind of go, no, that's absolutely fine. And you can kind of get to the point where maybe you can actually pick them up, or you can do something else with them. But if you get surprised by a spider, so one comes scuttling out of under the sofa, even if you know you can handle it on a conscious level, your subconscious, in the instant you see it, will immediately go, and then you'll calm yourself down. Now, for people who get panic attacks, that becomes much harder to do. But the more we can kind of calm that part of your brain down to say, no, everything is fine, we don't have to worry about stuff, and we get that piece of programming more calmed down that's in there that says the world's a scary place, then we can calm that down and you're less likely to overreact to something that's actually going on. So that's really what phobias are about. Now, with kinesiology, we can go into this. We can look at very specific phobias and we can get rid of them. Things like, spiders and mice and flying and those sorts of things. Relatively speaking, relatively easy, couple of sessions. Because once we've unpinned where the piece of programming has come from and we've dropped it, then all of a sudden the conscious brain can kind of go, well, no, maybe I don't like this very much, flying or whatever, but no, it's fine. I know I'm going to be fine. I know the pilot wants to get home. I know all the stewards want to get home as well. So it's probably absolutely fine. In fact, I used to not like flying at all. And now I absolutely love it. And the bit I love the most is the takeoff, is the power of the takeoff is so, I don't know, there's something about it. It almost reduces me to tears. It's just so wonderful. It's a moment of pure kind of bliss. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. I don't mind. I just quite like it. So anyway, I think that's probably what I'm going to talk about today. So you can use that emotional stress release technique I taught you a couple of episodes back on being able to work with these things. In the situation we've got now, if you notice that maybe you've watched quite a bit of news footage and you're getting a bit worried about what's going on and, the risk to yourself, well, just kind of do a little bit of emotional stress release and realize that the reality is if you're staying at home and you're doing as you're told, then the chances are that you will be fine, okay? Because obviously if we stay at home, we really limit the amount of outside contact, then we will be fine, okay? So don't worry about it. Just keep your distance from people. All right. So tomorrow we're going to talk about nature and how important it is for our well-being. So Therapy Ted has come to the end of this. We are all good. Yes, we are. And I'm going to give you one more look at the colour, the turquoise. And then we'll say goodbye. So join us tomorrow for another little bit of positive balance in an uncertain world.